jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
So hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. So guys, for today's video we have yet again another book video, and I'm literally so excited because today I'm going to be showing you guys all the books that I've read recently and basically just giving you guys a bunch of book recommendations because I've read a lot of good books recently, so yeah. But before we get into the video, the Bible verse of the day will be down in the description box down below, so if you want to go check that out, you most definitely can. And without any further ado, let's just get straight on into the video. So if you guys are on booktube and have been watching a lot of book videos, there's a lot of people who read really fast on booktube. Like they'll literally read like 15 books in 1 month. I read at like a decent pace, I guess, but everyone reads at a different pace, so everything's okay. But like I said, I do read a little bit slower than a lot of people, so I have 6 books to talk to you guys about. And yeah, so in October is when I actually got into like reading and stuff, and obviously booktube. So one of the first books that really intrigued me was one that Nicole Lano was recommending and some other people were recommending, and that is One of Us is Lying. I literally can't recommend this book enough. Like, literally just read this book. If there's any book in this whole video that you should read, it is this one. So if you didn't know, I'm kind of into like murder mysteries and kind of some romance books, and I don't really like reading anything like super spicy, if you know what I mean. So if you like that type of stuff too, this book is great for you. So I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit of a synopsis on this book. So basically this book is about these 5 kids in high school who went to detention one day, and you find out that they all went to detention for the same reason, and you find that out like pretty early in the book, so it's not really a spoiler or anything, but they all go to detention, and basically all 5 of them are like high school stereotypes. So there's a smart girl named Bronwyn, there's pretty much like a jock named Cooper, there's like a pretty popular girl and her name's Addie, and then there's like this criminal guy named Nate, and then the last one is Simon, and he's supposed to be like the outcast or like the weird kid. And basically while they're at detention, one of them dies, so it's basically like a whodunit type of thing, and it's literally so good. And there's a little bit of romance in it, which I really loved, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5. And since I've read some more books since I read this one, I kind of go back on the other books that I read and kind of like, you know, like change my rating on some of them. If like, now that I know what some other better ones are like, you know, you might think that that one should have been rated lower or something like that. But this one I still think is a 5 out of 5. So I got this book at the beginning of fall break in October, and it was literally such a page turner. It's told from all the kids' point of views except for Simon. And obviously that's because he's the one that dies in detention, and that's also not a spoiler because if you read like the inside of this, it literally says it right there. But I love getting all the point of views of everybody. Like literally when you finish somebody's part, it's like somebody else's part, then you're like, I want to keep reading until it's that other person's part again. And I literally read this in 3 days, and like I said, I'm a slow reader, so 3 days was super duper fast for me. This book is also great for teenagers, and yeah, literally just go read this book. So the next book that I read was The ABC Murders by Agatha Christie, and I know you guys might be thinking, what book is that, or like, why are you reading that? So basically the book that got me into reading and like looking at like booktube and stuff like that was the book that we had to read for summer reading this year, which was another Agatha Christie book called And Then There Were None, and that book was really good actually. So I decided to get another Agatha Christie book because my grandma has read a ton of Agatha Christie books also, and she said that this one was really good, so I decided to read it. It was a little bit of a shorter read than One of Us is Lying, and it was a pretty good book. I did rate it like a 4 out of 5 I think right after I read it, but then now I rated it a 3 out of 5. But it's not like it was bad or anything, but that's just because it was kind of slow in the beginning, because like in the beginning you're kind of learning about like the character who's talking and like Hercule Poirot, I think, because that's like who this series is about kind of. And yeah, I don't know, something about the beginning was just like really slow for me, and it was really hard to like get me to keep reading. And also I was kind of distracted while I was reading it because this is when I got back to school, and obviously I'd have to like take frequent breaks in reading it and stuff, and so I would be like disconnected like from the characters and stuff, because you didn't get like any of the characters' point of view except for Hastings, which is Poirot's best friend and like co-worker kind of. And I had just came off of reading One of Us is Lying, which I loved, so obviously if this one like didn't live up to that one, it would be hard for me to read this one. I really liked how you got to get like someone else's point of view, and obviously when you first start getting their point of view you have no clue who it is, and there's a little bit of a plot twist because you would think you knew like why they were giving this person's perspective, but I'm not gonna say anything else about that, but yeah, that part of it was really good. And I also did not expect the ending like at all. But overall, I think this was still a really good book. I feel like my 3 out of 5 ratings are like for books that are like still good, but just not like books that stood out to me or something. But yeah, I still think that you guys should read this if you like murder mysteries. The next book that I obviously read was the sequel to One of Us is Lying, which is One of Us is Next. And I did show you guys this in like a vlog, or like, I think it was my after school night routine video. I was literally so excited to read this book, like you guys don't even know. But yeah, I literally can't say enough good things about this book either. So obviously I rated this one a 5 out of 5 as well. So basically this one is a little bit different than the first book. In the first book I didn't really mention this, but Simon, the one that was like the outcast guy, he had this gossip website where he always posted like gossip that nobody else knew about other people. So that was one thing that would have made other people want to kill him. I know that sounds awful, but yeah. So this one is a little bit different. So this book is basically placed like a year or so after the first book. So you have one of the characters' sisters and then some other characters that are like involved with the other characters, if that makes sense. But this one is basically about a truth or dare game. So obviously since this first like whole traumatic situation happened, the school is always trying to like ban people that are like trying to, you know, copy that sort of gossip website thing, because they don't want anything like what happened there to happen again. But somehow somebody gets away with making this truth or dare texting game where you have to either pick truth or dare. So the truth part is kind of like the gossip website where they release gossip about you, but obviously the dare can sometimes be life-threatening dares. But yeah, that's basically what this book is about. It's super duper good. I can't really tell you guys anything else about this book without spoiling the first book, but I promise you, you need to read this first book and sequel. And the ending in this one I did not expect at all. And there's a little bit more romance in this one than there was in the first book, which, chef's kiss. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. And once again, there'd be parts in this where I would just be, you know. And this is also a great book for teens. Love this book. So after that book, I wanted to try something a little bit different. And if you guys have been on booktube, then you probably know that like one of the most popular tropes on there is romance. So I really wanted to try one and see what the hype was really about. So I decided to pick one of the most popular books I feel like on booktube and booktok, and that is The Hating Game. So obviously this one is a lot different than the other two, but basically this book is an enemies to lovers book and like workplace romance and kind of like Grumpy and Sunshine. So basically in this book, you're following this girl named Lucy, and she works with this guy named Joshua, and they literally hate each other. So basically they're part of these like 2 book publishing companies that like merge together. So there's like 2 co-owners. So they're basically both the people right under the owners, so they have the same exact like job and everything. And these 2 companies like don't really like each other because one of them, because the side that the guy's on is more like serious and like money and like numbers and everything, and then the side that the girl's on is more like all focused on the books and like everything loving about books. It basically comes to them 2 fighting for the same job position because the owners made a job position where it's like somebody that's right under the owners and then it's them 2, so that way them 2 wouldn't have as much work to do. And so obviously they're both fighting for that position, and yeah, that's pretty much what this book is about. So I thought this book was pretty good for my first romance book, and I did love the like enemies to lovers and everything. And some of the things that I liked about this book were like the little things that they noticed about each other in this book was literally so cute. And then I also felt like the ending was absolutely perfect. I felt like their banter was really good, but I did just feel like it was a little bit too much for me at some points. Like I would just be like, girl, or Joshua. Okay. But I did feel like it kind of moved along a little bit fast. Like I know before this whole book even happened, they had already been working together for like a year, but I did feel like it kind of moved kind of fast from like the enemies to lovers part. And also I think other people think this too, but at some points whenever they're like talking to each other, it was kind of hard to know who was saying what, because like it wouldn't always say like who was saying it, so sometimes you get a little bit confused. I think I did rate it a 4 out of 5, but then I changed it to a 3.5 out of 5, but that's just after I read another romance book, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, I still feel like this is a really good book, and yeah, if you haven't read it, then you should go read it. Okay, so the next book, whenever I was going to the store to get One of Us is Lying, the lady that was telling me where it was saying that I would really like this series if I liked One of Us is Lying. So after I read The Hating Game, I decided to get this book, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And yes, I know this title literally sounds horrible, but I promise you this is not a bad book at all. I'm gonna tell you guys like a summary and everything, but this is actually part of like a trilogy. So there's 2 more books after this, and I really want to read both of them because I've just read this one. But this one is kind of long. I think it's like 380 something pages, but I promise you, like, this book is so good. I can't get over the books that have like murder mystery and a little bit of romance in it. Like, chef's kiss. So I'm just gonna read you guys the back, that way you really get like a feeling of how the book is. So it says, pretty and popular high school senior Andy Bell was murdered by her boyfriend Sal, who had then killed himself. It was all anyone could talk about, and 5 years later, Pip, and Pip's the girl that this story is like all about basically, sees how the tragedy still haunts her town. Now a senior herself, Pip decides to re-examine the closed case for her final project, at first just to cast doubt on the original investigation. But soon she discovers a trail of dark secrets that might actually prove Sal innocent. And then the line between past and present begins to blur. Someone in Fairview doesn't want Pip digging around for answers, and now her own life might be in danger. So yeah, that is literally what this book is about. I can just tell you, this book is so good. Especially if you liked One of Us is Lying and One of Us is Next, you should definitely go read this. This book kept me on the edge of my seat literally like the whole entire time. The ending kind of had some parts that I was like suspecting like throughout the book, but some parts I was not expecting at all. And it took me on a little bit of an emotional roller coaster like the last 100 pages. So yeah, like this book had me hooked the whole entire time. Like this was also a page turner, and I didn't get through it quite as fast as I did One of Us is Lying, but that's just because of like school and everything. This also had a tiny bit of romance sprinkled in, like I think I said, but I loved it. Even though some of the parts in this book kind of reminded me of those like reality murder reenactment shows that I literally hate, I'll probably be reading the sequel because this story is just so good, and Pip, the main girl in this story, I literally love so much. So as if you can't tell, I rated this a 5 out of 5, and you should definitely go read it. And then the last book that I finished reading recently is one that, oh my gosh, mwah, just, yeah. Here we go with another really popular BookTok and BookTube book, and that is Beach Read. So once again, this is another romance book. So as you can see, I like to flip-flop between murder mystery, romance, murder mystery, romance. But yeah, this is another kind of long one. I think it was like 350 something pages. But basically, this book is about January and Augustus, and we follow from January's perspective. So basically, January and Augustus, or Gus, are both writers, and they were college rivals. So they went to the same college, and they were always like competing against each other. So she normally writes happily ever after endings for romance books, and he normally writes like literary fiction, but like dark literary fiction about like cults and stuff like that. But something pretty traumatic happens to January, and so this leads her to be staying at this beach house, and you find out all about this situation pretty much in like the first few chapters. So yeah, she goes to stay at this beach house where her dad was from, and as soon as she gets there, she meets her neighbor, and it's this like grumpy guy, and of course it's Gus from college. She's like, oh my gosh, how did we end up here at the same time? Why is he here? Why am I seeing him again? So on and so forth. So yeah, this is another enemies to lovers book. But anyways, they both happen to be in a writer's block, and so they're both having a hard time like trying to write a book, and so they come up with an idea to swap genres and try to write each other's genre. So that means January has to write this dark literary fiction book, and then Gus has to write a romance book. So they end up taking each other on like these lessons or whatever. So she takes him on like these romantic dates and everything to like kind of show him like what types of things are good to go in romance books, if that makes sense. And then he takes her on like these interviews with like people who have been part of like these dark like cults and stuff. Let me just tell you, I love this so much more than The Hating Game. And this is also a Grumpy and Sunshine type of thing. But anyways, to me, I feel like in The Hating Game, I know The Hating Game lovers are probably gonna hate me for this, but I just feel like in The Hating Game, they loved each other more for like their looks and everything, because it was always talking about how they were like polar opposites, and how she was so short and little and how he was so like big and muscular and stuff. And yeah, I just feel like there was like some connection there obviously, but they just kept mentioning that over and over and over again. But in this one, I really feel like they had a deep connection and like really loved each other. And yeah, I just love this book. So like I said, it is a little bit of a longer book and it is a slow burn. I just feel like this slow burn was done so good. And their banter in this book was also chef's kiss. And throughout the book, you also realize stuff about Gus too, and the way they helped each other with what they were going through was just so sweet, and just like how they knew how to comfort each other. And I really liked how the plot like kept going while their romance was like going on or whatever, because I feel like some people say like in romance books, like once the people are like, you know, spending more time together and stuff, like the plot of the book doesn't really move. But the plot in this book really kept going. The last few chapters, literally I almost started crying. I feel like the ending to this book was like absolutely perfect. I loved it so much. But I did feel like it was a little bit too much for me at some points as well. This book wasn't too bad, but for me, it's just a little bit too much. And that is literally the only reason why I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. If it was just a little bit less spicy in that one part, I literally would have given this a 5 out of 5. Like, that's how good it is. If you're into romance books, I definitely recommend this book. So I just wanted to quickly talk about the book that I'm currently reading and another book that I want to read this month. The book that I'm currently reading is this one, and that is called The Holiday Switch. I haven't heard that many people talk about this book at all. I think I saw this book on like Likewise or something, but I read the synopsis for this book and I was so intrigued. And yeah, I think I'm only on like the second or third chapter, but yeah, I'm loving this book. It's basically like a kind of teenage romance. Like, she's a senior in high school and he's like a freshman in college. But yeah, as you can see, it's like a Christmas book because she works at this like hotel in her town, and her town's like really known for this hotel because it was like the setting of this famous holiday movie. And so her town's like super duper festive and you have a bunch of tourists coming in. So she's working at this hotel part-time, and the boy love interest in this book is basically her boss's nephew. So yeah, I can't wait to finish this book. I'm actually thinking about doing a like reading Christmas books for 24 hours or just like reading books for 24 hours video later this month whenever I get on Christmas break. And this book and the next book that I'm about to show you, I'm definitely going to be reading in that if I do it. Comment down below if you think I should do that video. But yeah, I'm really excited for this book. And then the next book that I have, I feel like is a really popular holiday book, but that is The Holiday Swap. And I know their titles are like super duper similar. It's basically about these two twins, and one of them works as like it reminds me of like those holiday baking shows. Like, I'm pretty sure she's like a judge or something, or like works at one of those places. And something happens to her where she loses her sense of smell and taste. And basically the two twins do something that I haven't done in a super long time, and that is swap places. And as you can see, there are these two like men standing right here. So that probably means they're gonna switch boyfriends as well. And yeah, this just seems super interesting to me. And it's a little bit longer than The Holiday Switch because The Holiday Switch like pretty short. But yeah, both of these books are super cute. And yeah, I can't wait to read this book. But yeah, that is all the books that I'm gonna be talking about in this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some good book recommendations. And comment down below if you guys want me to do some more book videos because I'm really on a reading kick right now. And comment down below any book recommendations that you guys have for me because I'd really like to know. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified every time I post a new video. I have some really fun Christmas videos planned and just like other videos. So make sure that you subscribe, that way you don't miss them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It really means the world to me. And yeah, remember that Jesus loves you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.